fire, and replace the absentee congresswoman and anti-women, anti-LGBT Republican Chris Smith. Democratic candidate Josh Welle deserves the privilege of serving New Jersey's 4th Congressional District instead. The district's voters should vote for him. Absentee congressman, by the way, that's Welle's words for the record, not mine. Welle is not afraid to condemn President Trump for his treasonous, criminal, unethical behavior. At the US-Russia Summit press conference in Helsinki, you may remember, Associated Press reporter Jonathan Lemire asked President Trump, would you denounce what happened in 2016, the Russian interference in our elections? And would you warn Russian President Vladimir Putin to never do it again? Trump would not denounce. Trump would not warn Putin to never do it again. And in fact, President Trump said that Vladimir Putin's denials were strong and powerful, while the US intelligence community's findings were not strong and powerful. Trump also said he didn't see any reason why Russia would interfere in our elections. The fact that we have been sanctioning Russia for things like violating international law when they annex Crimea, etc., seems to escape the consciousness of the president. In response to Trump's open treason and groveling before Russian President Vladimir Putin, Josh Welle said, as a post-9/11 veteran and an everyday citizen, I was appalled by the president's actions in the press conference with Russian President Putin in Helsinki. For a sitting US president to side with an authoritarian Russian leader while undermining the integrity of America's intelligence community is a threat to national security and an insult to the men and women who serve and protect this country. Responding also to Trump's claim that the European Union, our allies, saying that the European Union is a foe, when Trump said that, Welle responded by saying, in choosing to support Putin over our national allies, Trump failed in his duties as commander-in-chief and reinforces to the American electorate that he lacks the diplomatic skills necessary to lead during times of great uncertainty. In contrast, Representative Chris Smith refused to criticize the president in the least. Anyone who is dogmatically uncritical in the name of being a team player for their political party proves they lack basic ethical standards and the intellectual capacity necessary for the kind of judgment a lawmaker should have. Representative Chris Smith did not utter a single word acknowledging President Trump's deference to Putin or his sycophancy towards him, nor did he demonstrate an awareness of President Trump's blatantly undermining of US intelligence, his blatantly obvious undermining of US intelligence. In fact, Chris Smith acted as if President Trump was not even at the summit, saying, "Today's summit broached crucial issues affecting human rights in many countries, election meddling, the conflicts in Syria and Ukraine, and terrorism, among other serious concerns." After it took a day for President Trump to try and play the American people for idiots and tell us all that he actually misspoke on that matter, Chris Smith took part, conspired in Trump's deceit, saying, "Today, President Trump stated the obvious. We know that Russia meddled in the election." He said further that he has full faith and support in the conclusion reached by the intelligence agencies in their investigation. This clarification is welcomed and frankly expected. Smith says all of this despite the president's numerous walkbacks, calling the entire Russia investigation a witch hunt and a hoax. Smith has no comment on that, proving he is either incompetent or unethical. But there is more at stake than a treasonous president doing the bidding of an anti-democratic, authoritarian Russian president. There's more at stake even than the president flouting the law. The preservation of basic civil rights are under attack so long as Chris Smith remains in Congress. Thankfully, Democratic candidate and challenger Josh Welle will not have it. Welle believes women should not be slaves to theocrats and fetuses. He believes women have the right to choose if they want an abortion or not. Welle says a woman should be able to make her own healthcare choices, and that he supports women's reproductive rights and their access to safe and affordable care, including contraception, preventative care, and funding for Planned Parenthood. Chris Smith does not believe that. Chris Smith believes that rape victims should not be allowed to have abortions. Consider Smith's attempt to actually change the legal definition of rape as part of his pro-choice agenda. As Mother Jones reported back in 2011, for years, federal laws restricting the use of government funds to pay for abortions have included exemptions for pregnancies resulting from rape or incest. Another example covers pregnancies that could endanger the life of the woman. Chris Smith took issue to that and introduced legislation that would redefine rape and thereby limit the number of rape victims who can receive government-funded abortions. Mother Jones reported, types of rapes that would no longer be covered by the exemption includes rapes in which the woman was drugged or given excessive amounts of alcohol, rapes of women with limited mental capacity, and many date rapes. There's Congressman Chris Smith for you. Mother Jones added, as for the incest exception, the bill would only allow federally funded abortions if the woman is under 18. Chris Smith's attacks on reproductive rights and women spans decades with relentless attempts to pass a constitutional amendment banning abortion. And think about the implications of that. Would that make the birth control pill illegal by implication? What about women who use the birth control pill for medical conditions? Chris Smith has also spent his career trying to pass a constitutional amendment prohibiting gay marriage. He also infamously denigrated the LGBT community when he said this: "I am a strong believer in traditional marriage and do not construe homosexual rights as human rights." That's worth saying again. Republican Congressman Chris Smith said, "I am a strong believer in traditional marriage and do not construe homosexual rights as human rights." It is clear that Chris Smith is divisive, that he thinks the 14th Amendment of the US Constitution, which declares all Americans equal under the law. Chris Smith apparently thinks that is null and void. Smith wants utterly unconstitutional control of our sex lives. Welle, on the other hand, Democratic contender Josh Welle, he supports LGBT rights. He says no American should be treated differently because of who they love. "I support full federal equality for LGBT Americans because gay rights are human," he says. A number of Chris Smith's constituents are disgusted by his bigoted policies and rhetoric. But Congressman Chris Smith doesn't have the nerve to listen to their appeals to change his mind. Congressman Chris Smith has not granted his constituents a town hall meeting in a quarter of a century, 25 years. He is terrified of facing their criticism. He doesn't even have the courage to face his opponent, Democratic challenger Josh Welle, in a debate. He doesn't even live in New Jersey. He doesn't even live in the state he is supposed to represent. He lives in Virginia, not New Jersey. Chris Smith is an absolute coward, afraid of the outrage his decades of bigotry have incited. Josh Welle, a veteran who has served in Afghanistan and Iraq, has proven he does have courage. Residents of New Jersey's 4th Congressional District deserve a representative who is not afraid to condemn the president's treasonous, criminal, unethical behavior, not afraid to face the people he wants to serve, and not afraid to stand up for them, regardless of gender or sexual orientation. Thank you.